are back working on the master closet again today. I'm going to try to get the center cabinet mounted and get the panels and everything built out on it. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and attach our shelves and our closet rods. And that way Amber can go ahead and start getting us organized in here. It's been nuts living out of moving boxes in the master for the last few weeks. Gosh, it's been longer than that. I think 6 weeks? No. Anyways, it's been a while. So it's been nuts living out of boxes, trying to figure out where these shoes are, where this belt is. So anyways, we're looking forward to getting organized. All of that hinges on getting this closet done. So let me show you what all we got to tackle today to make that happen. All right, so here's the cabinet that we were working on the other day. We got it set into position with the help of my father-in-law. On the back, you can see that we built a frame out of 2x4s. And that's going to give it plenty of support and a good place to anchor the cabinet. It also spaces the cabinet out, which is fairly shallow. It's only a 10-inch cabinet that we rescued from the kitchen. But it spaces it out so that we can use it as an anchor point for our closet rods, which have to come out about 11 inches off the wall. And then we'll have some fat shelves, some 16-inch wide shelves up top. So it'll give us a good place to anchor those as well. Cabinet's in pretty good shape on the inside, just a little bit of cleanup, and then Amber's going to go ahead and seal it all with some shellac primer and give it a good coat of paint. So we've got it pretty well centered up here on the wall. Now that things are centered, I'm going to take a pencil and make a line down the frame on both sides. And then once that's done, we'll pull the cabinet away, go in 1.5 inches in, and then go ahead and mark the studs, attach some cleats inside those marks on the inside there, and then we'll be able to put the cabinet back in place and get it screwed to the wall. That'll be the next step. And after that, we can begin to go ahead and fill in the gaps on both sides with some pieces of 3/4 board and paneling to make it all look like one happy cabinet again. So we're gonna get started on that. I just came to get some tools out of Grant's room where we were putting the shelves up here the other day, and just wanted to give you a quick look inside the closet. Amber has wrapped up the painting in here. She did this really neat blue stripe pattern that covers up all of the shelf wood and the shelves itself and incorporates that into the pattern. The inside of the closet is the same gray as the outside of his room. And so once we get the baseboard in here, get that shoe molding down, outlet cover, we got to put the closet rod in place, and then we'll drop the shelves back in. This closet is going to be done. It's going to look great. Really cute addition to his room here. All right, so as always, things are a little bit more difficult than they seem from the outset. So turns out that this piece of framing that holds the back of the cabinet was actually sitting right on top of the stud. So originally I was going to put a piece of blocking in between two studs and then slide the framing back over top of it, and then easy peasy, screw through the framing into the cleat and done. But unfortunately, it turns out that, again, this one was going to sit right on top of the stud. And that's right where the line is here. So what I had to do was open up the wall. You can see where I had to cut a hole in the drywall and then put a piece of blocking in there attached to the stud that would actually go back in behind this piece. And then I could screw this to the blocking. The other side, thankfully, went right into a stud, no issues. So, man, what a pain. So we're not really worried about holding the weight. You know, the cabinet has a full frame underneath it. You know, it's got 2x4s. Everything's blocked up and firmly attached. And we've got bracing all down through here to hold the weight of the cabinet and the closet rod and everything that's going to hang on it. This is really just to keep it from tipping outward from the wall, you know, so to hold it laterally. The vertical force is all going to be carried down to the floor. So not super worried about this. I think the way I've got it secured, it's going to be fine. And that's going to keep it from pulling away from the wall. And then everything else should be good to go. So we'll go ahead and get this bad boy slid into place and go ahead and get it mounted up. I think it's going to be great. Can't wait to get it filled in with paneling and get everything sanded and painted out. It's going to look really, really good. All right, so the cabinet is now firmly anchored to the cleats, which are firmly anchored to the studs in the wall and the blocking that I put in there. Got the cabinet level and plumb. Everything looks really good. Went ahead and ran 2 of those 2.5-inch construction screws through each cleat upper and lower. So we've got plenty of beef in there supporting this cabinet. And again, a lot of the weight's going to be carried down to the floor, but we wanted to make sure we had plenty of lateral support in there too. So those 2 cleats ought to do it. No problem whatsoever. I've seen cabinets installed with less. But again, these are going to have a bunch of weight on them because of the clothing racks that we're going to be installing on both sides and the shelves that are kind of getting built onto the unit. So we want to make sure that it's stout so we don't have any issues with movement, settlement, sudden collapse of the cabinets, the closet system. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and start mocking up my sideboards here. This is the one I cut outside yesterday. I got it ripped down. This was a former shoe rack in one of the old closets, and I had saved this this board because it was a nice piece of lumber. So I saved that, going to repurpose that, and then that's going to fill in on this side. And then on the other side, I've got to put some blocking in there. And I'm going to have a piece of Luan that will cover the blocking. And then this beat up piece of MDF on this side. So once we get that done, then we're ready to go ahead and put up our closet rods, get our shelves built, and this closet will be done. Well, except for having to trim it out. That'll come later. We'll get there. All right, so I had to cut down some pieces of 1x on the table saw to get them to fit in here nicely, but it built out the base, covered up the framing, and it's going to give us a good stop here at the bottom for this piece that goes in next. You see there's a little bit of a gap there between the floor and the base of the cabinet. It's not because the cabinet's crooked, it's because the floor runs off a little bit there as it gets close to the edge of the wall. That was part of the old subfloor, and there was a little bit of a drop right there in between the old bathroom and the old closet for whatever reason. So, we got a little bit of a drop on the floor, but that will cover up once we put our shoe molding around the base of it. So that's got the bottom covered up. Next, we got to fill in on the sides, and then we'll be ready for a crown around the top. That's going to take care of us. All right, I got the first filler board in there on the side, and it's got this funky old kind of slate blue paint on it just from where it was previously used in a closet. It was a shoe rack, but it's been repurposed. It's part of our cabinet. So that came together nicely with the framing in behind it. Went in nice and flush, and with a little bit of sanding, a little bit of wood filler in the nail holes and that sort of thing, we'll have a nice surface there. We'll get it painted up and it'll look fantastic. Now, on the other side, we've got to put a piece of 1x4 on top of this 2x4. And once we do that, it'll be even with the MDF next door. And then we got to put the last piece, it'll be a real thin piece of Luan that'll go over top of that. And that'll come up flush with this. So it'll sit just inside of that. And that'll look really nice, I think, once we get that all situated. And again, we'll tack that on. Probably have to put a little glue behind it as well. And then tack it in place, get it all filled and sanded, and give it a coat of paint, and it'll look fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and add that piece in, and then we'll probably wrap up for the evening on this. All right, last night we finished up by putting the shelves back in Grant's closet and hanging up his hanger rod there. So now we're back working on this closet again in the master. Just cut this piece of 1x4 to fit in the back there. That'll cover up the framing that we secured to the wall. And we've got a sheet of Luan, real thin plywood, downstairs that we're going to apply over top of that and the MDF. So that'll give us a nice smooth surface, easy to prep and paint, and hide the chipped MDF, make it look like one nice, smooth, seamless piece. So looking forward to getting that put on. So I'm going to go ahead and get this 1x4 screwed to the frame, and then we'll move on to getting our Luan cut. Amber's in Grant's closet doing some touch-up.
Hello.
How's it going, hon?
Great.
Somebody chipped up your nice paintwork there.
Yes. He shall remain nameless.
Sorry about that. It's funny funny how just a little paint on both sides makes it harder to get a shelf board in.
Yeah, so I think we'll learn from this. And on the master, we will cut it a little shorter.
Maybe just a smidge.
Just like 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. Amber's touching up the paintwork. You can see our nice rod there that we got ready to go for hangers.
Yay.
So once she gets everything painted up and it dries, we'll go ahead and get his closet loaded with his stuff.
Yeah,
just
we gotta go
scattered
through all this and get it organized.
all over the room here. So
I
we
just
got,
don't know how many, or how, this many boxes came out of his closet.
I don't know, it's just one of those crazy things, huh?
Yep.
So that'll be great. Looking forward to getting that organized, and then we'll put the track up on the door, or the door frame there, and get his doors hung.
Get a light up.
Get a light up. Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, keep up the good work. I'm gonna go back to the master closet and try to get it done too. All right, so our stained grade veneer plywood, Luan, is in position now. And as you see, it covers up all of that funky MDF and the spacer and everything that we put in there to kind of bring it all out level. Looks really good. Going to give us a nice, smooth, seamless surface to sand down and apply some paint. It's going to look really, really good. I do need to put a small piece of trim along the edge here. Our Luan was a little bit thicker, and so it's sticking out along the edge of our door frame there. So I'm going to have to trim that out with a little thin piece of 3/4. But other than that, it looks really great. We're going to do a crown around the top, as I mentioned before, and down around the bottom here, either a little piece of base, maybe smaller than what we're using everywhere else in the house, or if it really looks good, we may just do some shoe. That might be the simplest thing. So we're going to go ahead and get a little piece of trim cut for that, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and start building out some shelves and put up our closet rods. All right, so I got a thin piece of 3/4 inch stock cut down and applied to the edge here. Put it on with some tight bond, and also use my little pin nailer to go ahead and set it in place with some pins. So we've got that setting. It's got to sit for at least 30 minutes or so. I'll probably give it more like an hour or so before I try to do anything to it. But once it's done, good and dry and good and secure, I'll go ahead and shave down the edge a little bit. You see there's just a little bit of an overhang there, and that's okay. I've got a hand plane, it's good and sharp. So I'll just go through and knock the edge down with the hand plane and dress it up with a little sandpaper. And then we'll be good to go on that edge. And it did a nice job covering up the edge of that Luan there. You can't see the edge of that anymore. So that turned out nice. So we'll let that set up. We're going to go ahead and move on to building out our shelves. So that'll go in next. I'm going to get Amber to give me a hand with setting those boards in place, figure out where we're going to have everything. And then once that's done, we'll be able to go ahead and plan for our closet rods. We'll get the wood and everything in place to hold those to the wall. But then she's going to go ahead and paint everything. Go ahead and sand it all down, dress it out, and paint it. And then that way it's good to go. When we set the closet rods in place, we don't have to worry about painting around those. So that's the plan. All right, so we got our shelf support boards going up. Doing these a little bit differently than ones I did in Grant's closet. Since it's the master, I'm taking a little bit more time to countersink the screws. And I'll cut some plugs, put a little glue on them, drive those in, and then cut those off flush. That way all the fasteners are hidden. Nice and secure, but it gives it a real nice clean look. Since it's a master, you know, fancy it up a little bit. The side ones here, we were able to screw into the structure on the back. And then this one, we actually went through the MDF into the boards to fasten those. And so that'll give us a little bit better bite versus trying to screw through the boards and into the MDF. You always worry a little bit about trying to fasten anything into MDF because that stuff does tend to crack and splinter over time. So going through it into the hardwood will allow us to, I think, get a better bite and a better, a longer lasting fixture there. I'll probably add a few more screws before we go hanging any closet rods or anything off with that. But that's looking really good. So I got 2 more pieces to do down here at the end. And once we get those cut and fastened, we'll be ready to go ahead and install some shelf boards. Once we've got everything dry fit, we'll take it apart and Amber can go ahead and work her magic, get it all painted up and looking good.